I'm Karlyn Borysenko. I'm an analyst and independent journalist covering the far left in America, and I'm about to explain to you why conservatives are about to make the biggest, most boneheaded mistake that they have made that will lead to a far left recruiting boom like we have never seen before. Dominic here over on Twitter is reporting Supreme Court officially considering overturning landmark gay marriage ruling. Buckle up, kids. You're about to learn something about the far left that no one else has ever taught you, and why this is a horrible, stupid idea, and Republicans need to stop now. Otherwise, they're going to end up destroying the nuclear family. Let me explain. You don't have to take my word for any of this. I'm going to read to you directly from real far left subculture literature, and I'm going to show you what they think. This is Toward the Queerest Insurrection. If you want to know what militant queer activists believe, you read this document. It was written in 2008. And it was written by militant queer activists, the Mary Nardini Gang. These were some of the first really militant queer activists that existed in the country. They came out of the bashback movement, and essentially this is a violent arm that is very similar to Antifa, but they're different types of groups, that is focused on two goals: overthrowing the gender binary and abolishing the nuclear family. And they're doing all of this because their primary goal is, of course, to overthrow capitalism and create a perfect queer Marxist utopian society. Now you might think, Karlyn, they're queer activists. Of course they're going to be upset that gay marriage is overturned. But no. That's not what's going on. These people never wanted marriage to be legal in the first place. They never wanted gay marriage to be legal. In fact, if you look back at documents that the far left was producing for decades and decades, starting quite frankly in the 1950s, they have always been against marriage as an assimilationist capitalist ideology. And in fact, back in 2008, when this was written, again, that was before gay marriage, there are tons of documents like this coming out of the far left that are telling you we do not think we should be focusing on marriage. We don't want marriage. Marriage forces gays to assimilate to the attitudes of the straights. And if you turn to section 8 in Towards the Queerest Insurrection, they literally flat out say this. Here is what they had to say. Now, they don't critique marriage, military, and the state. When they're saying now they don't critique marriage, the military, and the state, they're talking about the Democrats. They're talking about the liberal gay rights activists. These are militant queer Marxists. These are people driving the really crazy dystopian agendas around abolish the family and abolishing gender. They do not like the Democrats. They do not like liberals. They do not like progressives, because the progressives and the liberals aren't critiquing marriage. They aren't critiquing military. They aren't critiquing the state. This is from the queer perspective. Rather, we have campaigns for queer assimilation into each. Notice how much they don't want to assimilate into marriage. They're viewing it with absolute disgust. Their politics is advocacy for such grievous institutions. Rather than the annihilation of them all, they're calling for the annihilation of marriage. Gays can kill poor people around the world as well as straight people can. Gays can hold the reins of state and capital as well as straight people. We are just like you. Assimilationists, when they say assimilationists, are gay rights activists, Democrats, liberals, progressive groups, the Human Rights Campaign, stuff like that. These people hated the Human Rights Campaign. Assimilationists want nothing less than to construct the homosexual as normal, white, monogamous, wealthy, 2.5 children, SUVs with a white picket fence. The construction, of course, reproduces the stability of heterosexual, whiteness, patriarchy, the gender binary, and capitalism itself. Now, this is a paragraph that basically defines the term homonormativity. You've probably heard queer activists say things like heteronormativity, cis heteronormativity. It's a reference to the norms that uphold capitalism. Norms are always the cultural norms, the gender binary, and the nuclear family that uphold capitalism. When you hear them say cis heteronormativity, normativity, it basically all means the same. They're not really, those words are not really different. They all mean the same thing, which is to uphold capitalism, right? So what they're talking about here, assimilationists want nothing less than to construct the homosexual as normal. When they're saying normal, they mean norms that uphold capitalism. They're saying marriage, assimilating to the capitalist institution of marriage, puts the homosexual in the position of upholding the capitalist norms in our society, which is the opposite of what these people want. This is called homonormativity, and basically that's a slur for gay people who are not militant far-left queer activists, because being queer is not actually about being gay. You're not automatically queer just because you're gay. Queer is a far-left political position that is intent on overthrowing our current society, and they're saying, you stupid gay people, Getting married in your monogamous relationships in your capitalist institutions with the house and the SUV and the kids and all that stuff. You stupid gay people, why aren't you queer? Queer is anti-assimilationist, anti-capitalist. Anytime they're talking about assimilating, they're talking about assimilating to the norms of capitalism, and they believe that gay marriage is an institution that assimilated the gays to the norms of capitalism. They continue, if we genuinely want to make ruins of this totality, we need to make a break. We don't need inclusion into marriage. They're saying it right there. We don't need inclusion into marriage, the military, and the state. We need to end them. They want to end gay marriage, folks. This is part of the plan. This is part of the evolution of what queer is ending gay marriage so that the normie gay people have nowhere else to go. And where do you think they're going to go? If Republicans and conservatives and not Democrats in this case, if Republicans and conservatives are really intent on overthrowing marriage, overthrowing their relationships, do you think they're going to run into the loving open arms of the GOP, or do you think they're going to get more far left as a result? This is going to be the biggest recruiting boom that people that wrote this document have had in a generation. This document was written almost 20 years ago. This is going to be a new era for these people if you morons overturn gay marriage. And remember, their goal is not to have gay sex all over the place. It's not pedophilia. It's not any of that. They don't write about any of this stuff. Their goal is to abolish the gender binary and overthrow the nuclear family. The nuclear family is the target. And when you overturn gay marriage, you are turning the people that were actually assimilating into that institution. You are sending them right back into the loving arms of the radical revolutionary far left, and they're going to take them, man, because they're excited about this. They never wanted gay marriage to be legalized in the first place. If we genuinely want to make ruins of this totality, we need to make a break. We don't need inclusion into marriage, the military, and the state. We need to end them. No more gay politicians, CEOs, and cops. We need to swiftly and immediately articulate a wide gulf between the politics of assimilation and the struggle for liberation. Liberation means to free oneself from the oppressive nature of capitalism. And then on the next page, they say this: we need to rediscover our riotous inheritance as queer anarchists. We need to destroy the conditions of normalcy and create instead a position based in our alienation from this normalcy and one capable of dismantling it. We must use these positions to instigate breaks, not just from assimilationist mainstream, but from capitalism itself. These positions can become tools of a social force ready to create a complete rupture of the world. They will use the overturning of gay marriage to literally create a complete rupture. Create a complete rupture in this world. That is the goal, guys, and don't think they won't do it. If you don't believe me, just go find the document on the internet. It is freely available. It is Toward the Queerest Insurrection. This is a document that I've covered in my work over on my Substack, which is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. Just click on the book club link in the top for the Counter-Revolutionary Book Club, and you can find a full reading and interpretation of the document. I believe it's episode 2. I read it very early on in that series of podcasts. So go read the document for yourself. You never have to take my word for it. But this is far from the only document that we've read from that time period, and quite frankly, for much before that. I'm currently working on a book about queer Marxism, and they were never in favor of the institution of gay marriage. Like going back to the 50s and 60s, this is a thread that is not discussed on the right, which is why the right thinks that there's not really going to be any ramifications for overturning gay marriage, right? Because they don't understand queer activists never wanted it legalized in the first place. And I'm sorry, guys, you might not like gay people, and I personally don't care if people are gay. It's none of my business. But like, you might not personally like them, but I would much rather have a normie gay couple in a gay marriage than I would rather have a queer anarchist trying to overthrow the entire institution of capitalism. One is a bigger problem than the others. Normie gay people just wanted to be able to get married and visit their partner in the hospital and get insurance and all that stuff. That's all they wanted. And after gay marriage was legalized, queer Marxists took over all of the organizing institutions, which is why everything got so crazy and trans and non-binary and stuff like that. If you want more breakdowns of the far left, you can always visit me on my Substack. That is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com, and find me streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Kick, and I talk about these subjects most days of the week.